Always keep an open mind. So, a lot of us like to think that we're open minded. I feel like it's easy to walk around believing you're open minded because in a polite society nowadays, a lot of people won't actually challenge that. Even if you act like you're an open-minded person and you're clearly not, most people just kind of roll their eyes a little bit, and in their head they might be like, yeah, okay. And even that person who's doing that, they might not be as open-minded as they think they are too. So being open-minded doesn't only just mean that your mind's open to entertaining different ideas. In the conventional sense, it means that the ideas that you already hold to be true, you're also open to questioning and entertaining alternatives to those ideas. And to be actually open minded, there's really nothing off limits. Once you have one idea or belief that becomes, so to speak, off limits, then you can kind of fool yourself into being open minded about everything else. But when you have one deeply rooted belief, it really can sort of kaleidoscopically influence the way that everything else appears. When we got no beliefs, it's almost like when you add a little bit of like ink or like food coloring to a glass of water, right? The whole thing's water, but you add just a little drop of that ink or food coloring, and then you can see it just permeate into the whole body of water. And once it does that, it'll affect, if you add, say, another color to it, it's already this one. Let's say we put red in, right? We put red in there. Okay, so without really having an experience or an understanding of how this color gets sort of diffused and into the whole body of liquid there, we might naively think, okay, this is 99.95% water, and then 0.5% red food coloring. And then if we add a little bit of blue, now we might think we have all water with a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of blue. But no, what happens, which is quite obvious if you've ever experienced this phenomenon, you put a little bit of red in, the whole thing kind of becomes a little bit more red. The whole thing becomes a little bit more pink. So now it's taken on a quality instead of being transparent. And now that it has that quality will limit the different possibilities of other colors it can turn when you add another color, because you're not starting with a fresh slate. So the same thing kind of happens with beliefs and ideas. We got this clear mind and we can see clearly, and then you add one deeply rooted belief, and it limits the whole body of water we'll call mind in this analogy. And so we can trick ourselves and we can look around and be like, I'm not deluded, which is interesting. Pun kind of intended there. I'm not deluded, you're deluded. But it's like, even once you get that first belief, there's delusion going on all across the whole board. So to be really open-minded, what we need to do is we need to question the most fundamental and sneaky and tricky beliefs that we have that have limited our minds from the get-go. One way we can really tell when we're starting to get close to that stuff, whether it's in a conversation or a debate with somebody, or maybe it's something you read online that kind of might have ruffled your feathers a little bit, what happens is when something seems to get close to breaching that belief that we don't really want to mess around with, we start to get defensive. We start to get ideological, and we start to get emotional. So instead of like having really good facts and reasoning to back up these cherished beliefs, we start to get defensive. We start to get upset if anybody even expects any sort of rationalization. We start to get touchy. We might get angry. These are defense mechanisms to preserve that worldview, because our worldviews are kind of an externalization of our identity. So when we start to mess with our worldview, we start to mess with our identity, and we think that if that happens, that's dangerous. That's what keeps people closed-minded. There's nothing particularly dangerous about challenging all of your beliefs. You know, what can be dangerous is some beliefs. What can be also sometimes dangerous is when people start to sort of surgically dissect their beliefs, and they might get kind of sucked into some other wacky belief. That can be a little dangerous. But when it comes to just being open-minded, to being, you know, to embrace humility, and to, you know, learn about different possibilities, there's no danger in that, as long as you do it with the right intention, which is just truth. You know, that's like the expression, the truth will set you free. Like if you follow the truth and that's your intention when you're being open-minded, when you're investigating and learning about life, then you'll be okay. But if you're trying to learn the truth so that you can sort of co-opt it and become, and you know, you're trying to seek the truth for some egoic reason, then that could potentially lead you down not a good path, just like any other thing in life that we can pursue for egoic reasons. So yeah, just like practice being mindful of when you're triggered, because that is a tall tale sign of an area of your mind that's closed. And you can see some of the best growth when you actually, you know, shed your awareness on those spots, and you kind of pry that mind open a little bit, and you embrace the humility of not knowing for sure, or the possibility of not knowing, and then those are the things that transform you the most. That's like pulling out that first red dye from that red ink from the glass of water. Now you're back to a clear space. But if we kind of ignore that first you know, color that tainted the water, and we just try to pull everything else out to get the clarity, we're never going to get to that clear water again, that clarity, clarity of mind. If you want to have a clear mind, if you want to develop as much as you can, and if you want to take that potentially to heights that you can't even imagine, like awakening, then just be vigilant about those sort of insidious, deep-rooted beliefs that we get triggered about. If you like this video, then please hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, then please subscribe. If you have anything that you want to say, then please comment down below. And if you know anybody who might like this, then please share it. And if you want to get notifications whenever I drop new content, then hit that little bell button. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.